A listener note, this story contains adult content and language. If you're listening to this podcast, you might want to go back and start at episode 1. This is a story being told in chronological order. You might miss some details or context that are pretty important to the story. From Exclave Media, this is The Sicario Effect.
Se busca a Pablo Escobar. Recompensa 2.700.
Con John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez. ¿Usted por qué se entrega de nuevo a la justicia?
Porque no le debo nada a la...
A Colombian hired killer known as Popeye has been released from prison.
Hola guerreras y guerreros, yo soy su amigo John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez, conocido como Popeye.
Alias Popeye, mi señora.
Yo soy John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez Popeye, la hermana.
Episode 13, Esteban. Colombia is challenging. Of all the places I've been, there's way more going on underneath the surface. And just when you think you have an understanding of something, boom, it turns out the other way, and you knew nothing. The man who helped me navigate so much of this is my good friend Esteban Orozco. A natural storyteller, he was born and raised in Colombia. Esteban, along with his brother Juan Felipe, are a formidable writer-director duo. Their feature films Al Final del Espectro, At the End of the Spectra, and Saluda al Diablo de mi parte, Greetings to the Devil, starring Edgar Ramirez, were both critically acclaimed and box office successes in their native Colombia. A couple of years ago, they emigrated to Los Angeles. Esteban has achieved international recognition as a writer on the critically acclaimed hit Netflix series El Chapo. He most recently was a writer on the Netflix series Distrito Salvaje, or Savage District, and Doble, a feature film directed by Colombian filmmaker Felipe Martinez. When I got back from Medellin, I told Esteban I wanted to sit down with him. I thought he could help me process everything. We set a time to get together. I had no idea that only a few days earlier, Popeye would once again be in the headlines. Our conversation took place on December 12, 2017, just a few days after the police arrested Juan Carlos Mesa and detained Popeye at his birthday party. Alias Tom's arrest and Popeye's presence at the party had thrown everything into question. So, okay, over the weekend, on early hours of Saturday morning, the police raided a hotel somewhere in Medellin, in a place called, Peñón. Okay, well, I think, anyway, this guy was having his 50th birthday party. Turns out to be a guy called Juan Carlos Mesa, a.k.a. Tom. Which in the aliases of drug dealers, that's a great one. Alias Tom.
Very international.
Yeah, Tom. So alias Tom was arrested. And in the raid, it was called Operation Omega, launched by the Colombian police. They had been tracking him for a while now. He's high on the list of extraditables from Colombia. Meanwhile, at the birthday party is... Guess who's there?
Popeye.
So, this all of a sudden led to this flurry of media about he's breaking his parole or the conditions of his release by associating with known criminals. So Popeye tweeted out all these bad things, like sort of challenges to the government, including one of them is that, yeah, you need my help. Well, guess what? I'm not going to help you anymore. Just a bunch of stuff. You know, is it a crime to be at a birthday party? Is it, sort of like taunting the government in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not the stuff that I really want to talk about today, but it's hard not to mention it even just because we're here.
Yeah, bro. Colombia have been in that situation many times, the situation when they capture someone that they are looking for. And the thing is that there are a lot of people in those places and you cannot prosecute everyone around because we don't have the resources for doing that. Normally you find, the wife, their sisters, their sons. Mm. So that became a big problem many years ago. So probably they don't. Yeah. They're like I don't know like the word, but they don't process everyone that is in that places. And now they probably are doing that because Popeye is the one that is there. Yeah. And he's like a rock star and everything like that. Yeah. It's something that probably is part of our history.
What I'm learning now, what I'm seeing now is as I get deeper and deeper into this, like even reading more stuff this weekend because of what happened to Popeye, For the first time I learned about the Oficina de Envigado.
Yeah.
Well, but see, I didn't know that. I had not read anything about it. I didn't know. And the irony was, I didn't learn anything about that in Colombia either. I learned when I came back. Is this what happened in the Medellin cartel?
Yeah, they learn a lot, when after Pablo, everybody say that the narcos got more sophisticated or more educated. They were like some of them were the sons of narcos.
Yeah.
So they went to, I don't know, Harvard or Yale or something like that. So they started dealing with drugs.
Clearly, they're not as big an organization as the Medellin cartel was, because the reach can't be as big.
Yeah.
It just can't be. I mean, if it was, I think we would know about it. Everybody would know about it.
Yeah, the problem that of course the Medellin cartel was very big, but everybody knew about them because they started this big war. That's why that's what brought everyone's attention. So because I'm not sure if everything has changed. Yeah, and that's why the problem is so complex. For me, the answer is inequality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That
comes down to that.
Yeah, everything comes down to that. But because the thing is that when Pablo Escobar was doing those horrible things, everyone started thinking that the solution or the answer for our problems was to kill Pablo, to get Pablo, everything. But when Pablo was killed, the next day Colombia was in the same problems with the same problems. And the next day, the same thing, and then the guerrillas, and then
the solution they used to get Pablo created even more problems. I think.
Yeah. So the problem is for me is not the drug dealers, and of course you have to stop them because they are doing so horrible things. But when you have classes differences,
and it's massive.
It's very massive. So when you have someone like Pablo Escobar, and in Colombia the minimum rate, how do you call it?
The minimum wage.
Minimum wage per month is something like $200. $250.
Yeah.
So what can you do with that?
Yeah.
And the thing is that there is a lot of Colombians that don't even have that money.
And there is a middle class, but it's small.
Yeah.
So it's really this layer of very wealthy people that's probably
some of the responses from Popeye. I have heard that argument many times that when you are starving, you have to find a way to get it. And that's not true in Colombia.
Yeah.
Actually, there are a lot of people with starving, but Colombia is a very rich people very rich country, with resources.
Yeah.
Those guys were not starving; they were starving from power or from big money, something like that. But they're not with people starving from food. They didn't have something to eat. No, that's not that wasn't their scenario.
A lot of those guys, though, use that as an excuse.
Yeah, and the thing is, the thing with that is that that's the problem when you are not from there. Like Colombia, like I was saying, Colombia. Normally, when you see something, you see it from your point of view and your history and everything you know. But when the people is from that specific place, they understand many things that we can understand. We cannot understand. The same happen with Colombia. There are a lot of people that say, Colombia, man, that's a horrible place, drug dealers. And you can go there and ask and interview Popeye and say, wow, these people are. But, there are a lot of different things happening there that is very difficult for someone from a different culture, to really understand.
Sure.
And the thing is that it's very difficult to understand when the hope could start, when the hope is, with those people.
Is the violence, I'm going to go back for a second. Is the violence in Colombia, like, I guess, for example, for people who live in Chicago, Chicago's a pretty violent city. I'm from there originally, and it's gotten really bad in the last several years. And you live with this notion about hearing about all these murders, but people go and they live their normal life. I mean, is it like that for you guys? Or is it really unique?
The everyday experience.
Yeah.
Well, have someone point a gun to you in order to steal your phone?
Yeah.
Have you been in that situation?
Never.
Okay, well, I have been in that situation.
Really?
Yeah, more than once.
Really? More than once?
Yeah. Once I don't like to talk about things about Colombia, but it's just, it's...
I don't think you're talking about things about Colombia. You're talking about...
I was coming back from the university and this public bus. So, and the bus was kidnapped by like 4 or 5 guys. One of those guys had a shotgun. The other one, the one that, was close to me had this is the most horrible knife I ever seen because it has a lot of rust, or it was
like teeth, like jagged.
Like, yeah, it was horrible. It was like a jail knife.
Okay.
That's dirty. I don't know if blood. Something. It was very horrible thing. So yeah, they stole everything from us. Like they took 10 minutes because it was very organized.
Did you look them in the eye?
No, you just, when you see the weapons, you just, okay, how they take it. Yeah, so.
Did anybody try to say, well?
No. That was a good thing because if you try something like that in that situation, it could end up very horrible. So yeah, that's, and if you ask to every Colombian, I don't know but most of the people have been in those kind of situations.
Right.
If you haven't been there in those situations because you are one of those very rich people that, don't get in contact with the real place. But the thing is that, and this is something very, very interesting about Colombians, is that if you talk to people that doesn't have any money, people that live with $1 or $2 per day, they are happy.
Yeah.
A lot of those people are very happy. Well, they are not happy if they lose their house because of the violence or something like that, but they are not, angry people.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, when the kids are growing up, and they start seeing that there is this kid that has the same opportunities, but suddenly has a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So, okay, why do you have a motorcycle? No, I started working with these guys. So you have this kid that has to walk, an hour every day in order to get to the school. And there's another kid that has a motorcycle. And the next day it has a cell phone, an iPhone. Those kind of things are the ones that, are corroding these kids' minds.
Yeah.
For example, there is this weird story, because Colombia is a very weird place. In this radio station, these people were talking about robberies. The robbery, cell phone thieves and everything. And they receive a call from, a listener. Mm-hmm. And the one who calls was a thief.
A thief, ladrón. Yeah.
And they didn't know what he was calling, but he was like kind of upset with them. And he said something like, if you are like me, that you don't have opportunities, and you are in a bus or something like that, and you see this guy, this kid, this teenager with a cell phone that is $1,000 worth, why you cannot take it away from him? Yeah, because a kid doesn't have to be, a kid like that doesn't have to have that kind of cell phone, because it's very expensive. So he was thinking something like, there is something wrong with kids having that kind of expensive things.
Yeah.
And in Colombia, you sometimes feel like my mother, for example, when my mother always told me that if you are going to buy a car, don't buy an expensive car. So and you feel bad if you have something special or expensive, because you know that can bring problems. So the thief was saying something like, well, if a kid like that has something like that, well, I'm going to take it.
I mean, you're a filmmaker. You're a filmmaker, and this is not your world. This is, I don't want to give the impression that you're some specialist in.
I'm not a specialist.
Not at all. No, but what you are is a very helpful person who was my only context to it, my only reference to it. And as I began to realize that you lived through a lot of stuff, not necessarily. Like right up close to it, but you lived in Medellin. You're from Medellin. Yeah?
I'm from Medellin. Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're born, I'm guessing 1980. 1980. Okay.
1980. Yeah. I'm from Medellin, but I used to live also in Monteria. It's a city located like 300 kilometers from Medellin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know in miles.
Yeah, it's like 150.
Yeah, something like that. My parents moved there, so I was like away from the violence that was going on in Medellin. But the problem is that Monteria became the center of the paramilitaries. So at that time, you couldn't run away from violence there.
Did violence ever happen to anybody in your family?
Yeah. Everyone in Colombia has a very close event with violence, something like that. So but I when I was growing up, I don't know if we want to talk about this, but when I was
there's no right or wrong. So.
Yeah, when I was growing up, there was this guy. I don't know how you call it, like a ganadero, with the ones that deal with cows and
with what?
These animals, the cows.
Cows.
The farm is like a farm. Yeah, but a big guy. You know, he has many farms with cows and that kind of things. And he was like this respectable guy. And he used to live half a block from my house. But the weird thing about that was that I don't know why the house had polarized windows. And that's weird. Yeah. Why do you use that? Well, that guy was Mancuso. Mancuso was one of the big leaders of the paramilitarism. So that was very weird, because for us he was like a regular guy, and the same happened with the drug dealers and that kind of thing.
Everybody I talked to had, I mean, even like Alejandro, for example, he said something to me that was interesting. He said, he goes, it's the drug dealers here. It's not simple. And I said, explain. And he goes, well, for example, when I was a kid, I had to have an operation, a very urgent operation that I needed. And it was paid for by a narco. Everybody I've encountered has this. But going back to you for a second, we know each other because and I've said this in the beginning of the podcast, I'm also in the entertainment business, and that's my job. I know you from entertainment. So I mean, but you were my only nexus to Colombia. So going back to you as a person. So like you grew up in Medellin. You had I guess, did you have a normal childhood?
Yeah. That's the thing, that you have to get used to that. To the violence. Yeah. When a bomb explodes, a block from your house, it's okay, that was a very horrible thing, but the next day you have to walk through there in order to get the bus to go to the university or your school or everything. So that's and you will find that the Colombians has this very, superpower, this very nice, this superpower that we forget very easily. And that's a very big problem, but that's the only way you can survive there.
Yeah.
Because when you have to deal, not now, but at that time, every day, you used to hear a lot of bad news. There were these bombs, there were these kidnappings, there were these explosions and everything. You have to live your life. So you have to become like you have to create like a shield. And that's something that we are that is affecting us very badly now.
Now?
Yeah, because now with the peace process and everything, the people still have their shield. So that's something that at that time it worked. Mm-hmm. I remember, for example, when there was this bomb in El Parque Lleras. You went to the Parque Lleras probably because you were like 3 blocks from there. So the next day, people started realizing that we have to move forward. Mm. So they were like I don't know if we're like a concert or something there in the same place, and the bars open again because, you have to just keep forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we forget very easily. That's this very weird thing.
It's funny you say that because did you watch El Patrón del Mal?
Some episodes. Yeah.
The beginning of every episode, it says, those who do not learn history are condemned to repeat it. It's true, though.
It's true.
This is true in any case, but someone told me one of the things that they heard a lot in Colombia during the period of real violence was Colombia's finally hit rock bottom. Only it wasn't true. They thought it was. They thought they were saying the truth, but it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I found that really interesting when I heard that. That was like,
yeah, it's like when you put a frog in a boiling water. When you start growing, the heat slowly. The frog doesn't realize that it's going to be killed. But if you put it when the worm is boiling, the frog is going to jump.
Yeah.
But if you do it slowly, it's different. And that happens with Colombia,
Yeah.
It's been 50 years, day by day. So now, we are trying to realize how to deal with that. Not with the violence, with our acostumbramiento, we are used to that.
Yeah.
So how do we change ourselves? Yeah, but sometimes I'm very happy that I grew up in Colombia. I won't change that for any other country in the world because I'm very happy that I had the experience to live there and to grow up there. But sometimes you need a place to breathe.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the United States. There are a lot of countries and places that can give you that. But just to feel that you can have your phone on the street, or that if you leave something in your car, when you come back to your car, you are going to find it there, and you are not going to find the window broken. And if you forget, your keys in something, or if you forget your purse or your wallet and everything, you are going to find it when you left it. That's something that gives you, like some kind of peace. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm not I'm not right now in the best place in the world because I like Los Angeles, but I know that it's not the best thing. But sometimes it gives me that. For example, I like to drive a bike. It's not safe in Colombia to drive a bike because they're going to steal it. And that's not a good thing to feel because you feel afraid every time. And you get used to that. You get used to, walking on the street, and if you are alone in the street, you only can feel that feeling if you grow up in a place when you don't feel safe. There is this saying in Colombia is no des papaya. It's like it's your own responsibility not to be attacked by a thief or something like that. So if someone still, for example, if you're in a taxi or something like that, and you take your phone you have to take a picture, and someone steals your phone, everyone is going to tell you it's your fault because you had your phone exposed. So at the end, it's your responsibility. It has become your responsibility. To not be in those kind of situations.
There's a lot of women who've been sexually attacked and blamed on them for, you shouldn't have dressed that way. Well, that's bullshit, you know?
Yeah. And that's the how Colombia is. So, for example, once Ingrid Betancourt, you know, she was going to this small town.
She lives in France now, I think.
Yeah, she lives in. She was running for president, and she wanted to go to this small town, and the government and the police told her not to go because they couldn't guarantee her safety. But she wanted to go because she wanted to tell the people that she's not afraid of that. And she was kidnapped. The thing is that many people say it's her fault because she went there. But the truth is, you're supposed to have the right to go to any place in your country.
Yeah.
So, but in Colombia,
crazy.
there was nothing like Popeye before Popeye. So Popeye is a new thing, a very, very new pop thing.
Yeah.
A millennial thing, and you know, I don't know what's going to happen with him because you know I told you he becomes an actor in his own movie or something like that, ex Sicario. So it's a very new thing. I don't know what's going to happen. The people now is the good thing is that they are talking about Popeye now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of conversation about that because. You say something that for me is very important, is that I think that it's very important to hear people, even if they are bad people or they have done bad things. It's not just giving them a voice in order to convince people. It's in order to understand actually what happens and what's going on. And I have been thinking about him in the last 2 months a lot, trying to figure out what's going on here.
Were you mad that I did this?
No. I'm very happy.
Really?
I'm very happy.
No, I mean, you could tell me if you're mad.
No. Actually, I was very angry about the way Popeye was affecting or the people was going. Just to let you know something, when you told me that you were going to interview Popeye, I told you that I was in Colombia. I arrived. I was like 3 weeks in Colombia. I just arrived the week before that. And when I went there, I realized that there were a lot of people talking about him. A friend of mine was very, very angry because they were doing a documentary about him. My mother was confused about him. She doesn't know. She still doesn't know what to think about that.
Really?
He doesn't like him. But, seeing that he's famous and everything. A friend of mine told me that he was in this mall and there were these 2 girls, teenagers, taking selfies with him.
Yeah. Lots of that.
Yeah, so we are trying to figure out what's going on here, because it's not easy. Yeah, because the thing, if you take a step back and just see the whole scenario and say, okay, he was in jail, he did his sentence.
Yeah.
If we have done everything right, he now is a regular guy. He can do whatever he wants. But at the end, he's not, and we cannot forget that. That's the thing.
So when I called you, and I told you that I was doing this,
I already knew that.
How did you know?
I don't know.
You mean someone told you, or
no?
You just knew?
Yeah, I just knew.
Really?
When you told me you were going to interview someone in Medellin, I was it must be Popeye.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, when you told me, yeah, because of that, because I used to have a ride from Medellin, and everyone was talking about him, and another friend told me that they were doing some documentary about him. So it was just fresh.
With relation to Popeye, I mean, do most people? Do you think? Maybe this is not a fair question, but do you think most people in Colombia? What's your sense of do most people in Colombia think he's a joke? Think he's a great guy and terrific, or
no. Most people in Colombia hate that guy.
Really?
Yeah. But as I told you, Colombians have a superpower. Yeah, we forget very easily. So they know they hate that guy. But this guy that is now has become YouTuber, and it seems like a new guy, a different guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very complicated now. You know that people are fan of him or something like that.
Yeah.
But, they have forget, something that happened 20 years ago. They know he was a bad guy, but they don't remember actually. Many people don't remember actually what he did.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But the people don't love him.
They don't.
No, now the young guys, the younger generation.
Yeah.
That they are the millennials and everything that were not at that time, and they love YouTubers and they admire YouTubers, and now they hear that there is this guy that is a YouTuber that that is like he was connected with this mythical Pablo Escobar, that's for me is very complicated and dangerous thing.
It's very dangerous because, I mean, I don't need to tell you this, but the myth is really great. It's really big. I don't mean great. It's that it's terrific. It's just it's huge.
It's huge.
And because of the myth, and you have popular culture, not just in Colombia but everywhere. I mean, if we go under the premise that popular culture is kind of led by America, it has been for many years. You never hear about the victims. You don't hear about no one wants to tell the story of, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of heroes in the stories of fighting the cartels and drugs and whatnot and crime in Colombia, but those stories aren't as they're never romanticized or whatnot. It's just, what you have is this, narrative that's out there that's really powerful and very compelling to a lot of young people. I think in part because money. At the core of the myth of Pablo Escobar is it's money, so much.
It's a franchise now. The thing is that someone one day heard that, Pablo Escobar was like a Robin Hood. I don't know, in the 80s, someone heard that. And that was a very big news because that sells. If you say that in the New York Times, people, okay, you're going to say newspaper because, this drug dealer, this new hero that is helping Colombia.
You know what? One of the worst things, as I've been doing this project, one of the things that I've come to the realization of, one of the worst things ever to happen to Colombia was that Forbes put Pablo Escobar on that list. It really legitimized him in some way. And I feel like if it hadn't been on there, if they, it would be different if they could, just say, well, he made a lot of money. No, he was on Forbes' list. Like, he was the richest man in the world.
Yeah, and those little things. For example, when Pablo Escobar was living, he proposed to pay the external debt.
Okay, now I want to ask you about this. And again, I don't feel pressure. You're not a historian but that particular thing, I wonder, had they accepted that deal, that the deal I'm referring to is that Pablo offered to pay the entire debt of Colombia. If I understand correctly, he was going to quit the cocaine business, but he was going to get to keep his wealth and not be extradited. That was the main thing. Well, had they taken that deal, what would have happened?
You will legitimize the drug dealing thing. I
thought, if I understand correctly, when you say legitimize the drug dealing thing, you mean legitimize what?
Legitimize what he had done. Because it's like accepting, okay, list. Hey, this is a good money. We can have it. So that sends a very complex message, to the victims and to Colombia, because it's like receiving money from Charles Manson. It's like okay, how are your moral thing here? And the other problem to me, and this is more practical thing, United States. So that could be something good if we didn't have, if we don't have, the relationship with other countries in the business. So I don't know what could happen with the relationship, because the Plan Colombia is this very big thing, very strange relationship between Colombia and United States. So I don't know, and maybe the other thing that for me could have happened is that we could have created more Pablo Escobars, more, because you can, it's like there's like this message saying that you can do whatever you want, but if you give money to the government or to the Colombian, you are going to be fine. And that's been very dangerous, in
Afghanistan, now the statistic could have changed, but this was the case at least a few years ago. Poppy production, which is opium, heroin, accounted for 40% of their economy. Now, the U.S. wants these farmers to stop doing it and everything, and I go, 40%. You cut that part out of their economy, it's going to collapse.
Yeah, it's going to collapse.
I mean, collapse. It's going to get worse than it is now.
And the same happened with Colombia when they started, trying to change the farming, the drug farming, to different products, to I don't know how they call that, palmitos. They're trying to sustitución de cultivos.
Yeah.
But the thing for them is that, okay, if I receive, I don't know, $10,000 per month dealing with drugs, and then I'm going to receive $200 per month, something like that. It's very easy what they are going to choose. And the weird thing about the drug thing is that, and I have heard this argument many times, why are these drug dealers going to stop dealing with drugs? Just because there are some people in United States, getting high.
Yeah.
So just because of that. And so it's a very, very weird and moral thing also, because there are these people that don't have, many opportunities. They are not starving. They don't have the opportunities, and they could have, the life they want.
Yeah.
They could have a Ferrari. They could have, like Pablo Escobar, they could have their own zoo.
Yeah.
They could have a Pantera, a tiger if they want. They could have, a big castle, just dealing with drugs.
Yeah.
And we are telling them, don't do it. Don't do it just because drugs are bad.
Because it wrecks people's lives.
Yeah. And those kind of things. And the other thing that I would like to talk about is, for me, this is the most important thing, is this. Someone in France or in the United States buys, Coke, just because he wants to have fun.
Get high.
And okay, and you're in a party and you want to enjoy yourself and everything. But you don't realize that the money that you are paying for that drugs is killing people in Colombia.
Yeah.
So, and that's a very, 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 very hypocritical. Because, the people that consume drugs normally says, I can do with my body whatever I want and everything. And it's true. It's true. I agree with that. But the thing is that, but you are sending money to kill guys or kill people in a country that you doesn't care, because it's Colombia. It's like, like the Congo and those kind of things. So for me, the problem is very complex.
Going back to our subject, I'm just looking here at some of the questions that I had asked him. I said, do you think that the narcos, do they have a responsibility talk about their crimes so that they can allow people to move past it? I know that sounds weird.
No, I probably get what you mean. There is one big problem in countries that have been suffering, like Colombia, these kind of problems, is that there is a lot of uncertainty about things that happened. There are a lot of people that don't know what happened with their friends, their families. So there were a lot of disappearance and that kind of things. I don't know if that's the question that you're asking, but they know a lot of things that happened. The narcos and the guerrillas and everything involved in war should tell the people now what they did. And not only, what they did, I mean, things that we don't know how happened, how those things happened. Because I know that there are a lot of people trying to find their relatives from those times that they don't have answers for them. Yeah, because
they just disappeared.
They disappeared.
Wow.
Well, after 30 years, you realize that they are dead.
Yeah.
But you don't know where.
And you want to
what happened.
Have closure.
Yeah, that kind of closure is very important. And there are a lot of people that they know they are not going to find them alive. Mm-hmm. But at least they want to know what happened.
So a lot of these guys have been either served time in jail and are out now, like Popeye, or some are still in jail but have tried writing books. I'm the ones in jail in Colombia, at least. And other people related or connected to the cartel. But the thing specifically with Popeye is, yes, it's important to know what happened, but while at the same time he's getting these platforms on YouTube and on Instagram and Twitter, and he's selling T-shirts now that say "Plato Plomo."
Yeah, he's not a reliable source right now. That's the problem for me, because it will be nice to ask them, for example, who killed, I don't know, how was the process of the taking of the Palacio de Justicia, Justice Palace? How was the whole negotiation? Who was involved in that kind of things? So, but I don't know if he's going to tell, because he doesn't want to get involved in crimes that he wasn't persecuted.
Right. But he was only persecuted for, I forget the crime they were all persecuted for less than, it wasn't.
Yeah. He was, yeah. Because we were persecuting him for all the crimes he did, he was still in jail. But the thing is that's the problem. That's why I'm saying that you need a reliable source. Someone that, with heart, really wants to tell the truth. So yeah, it's very, and the thing is that and there are a lot of crimes that are still, unresolved from that time. So they don't want to talk about that, and they don't want to make more new enemies.
When you talk about Popeye, he had one answer that he kept referring to, we were at war. We were at war. Like, asking about blowing this building up or killing these people. He would say, well, we were at war. This is what happens. And I said, you say that, but you're not, Emiliano Zapata trying to, or Simon Bolivar trying to liberate your people from oppression. You're fighting for extradition for literally a handful of people, who it's all self-serving. And that's bullshit, frankly. And, he's kind of programmed with answers, I think, in some cases.
Yeah. Actually, because those kind of questions, they have been dealing with those questions for their life. So they know how to answer that. And they actually believe that. They probably believe that.
Who's listening to it and goes, oh, they were at war, right? Yeah, that's why. No. You kill 300 people. it's one thing if you're an assassin for the U.S. military. But seriously, if you're like a job is to protect your troops, and as like that guy in the Bradley Cooper movie,
American Sniper,
and you have to be on a perch way high up, and you're protecting your troops, and you're in a. I am not saying the war is justified one way or another. This is not a stance on that, but it is what it is, and these guys are sent there. So if their job is to protect troops going into a forward area by being a sniper, and you're taking out this guy, that guy, and and then later on, you're doing an interview and somebody says, well, how is it that you killed all these people? You say, well, we were at war. That, it's an okay excuse. But when you're, for these guys, it's just not. And it's, he kept saying it like it was just this thing. And I'm not changing my opinion on it. But one thing, though, that is important to take into consideration is going back to the history part of Colombia. I think that they feel, or at least you got the impression from him, that they were trying to carry on this tradition of class struggle in Colombia. And I'm again, I'm not somebody that's going to agree with that, but I suppose it's an argument. But it's not like they redistributed the wealth in a huge way. I guess they redistributed it in a way that was better than the government ever did.
It doesn't seem to be a person who is has become a better person. He's. That's why I told you I hate that fucking guy.
Do you think that this is interesting? He served 24 years in jail, or 23 and a half, whatever it is, but 24 years we'll call it. And my understanding was that the punishment for murder in Colombia is 30 years. There's no death penalty. I was surprised there was no life sentence. I didn't know that there wasn't. That's kind of crazy. I mean, that's just kind of crazy.
You know who Garavito is?
Oh, right. Yes. I know who he is. Yeah. I know who he is. Sure. He's one of the worst serial killers of all time.
But let me tell you something about that connects with what we were talking about, just to close that. When Garavito was captured, I don't know, 20 years ago, something like that. When he was captured, this is a very different story, but they were not looking for him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when they captured, the whole country realized that he killed more than 100 kids. Mm-hmm. And 10 years later, everyone in Colombia have forgot about him because we have a superpower. And so it's so weird to deal with that. And the same happened with the crimes, with the paramilitary crimes and everything. Everyone almost forgets. So it's very difficult, to have the big context to see the whole scenario, that all the crimes that have happened.
I asked him, I said, you reminded me of something. I said, Fidel Castro, years ago, in a courtroom, gave a long, long speech where he said he had blown up a barracks in a place called Moncada in Cuba. And he blew up the Moncada barracks. He attacked the Moncada barracks. And they killed some people, I think, in the process of this. And he was going to be sentenced to death. And he gave this long, famous speech in court where he said that history will absolve me. I asked Popeye, I said, do you think history will absolve you? And he said, no, history will not absolve me. I was surprisingly, I actually thought either he's just telling me what he thinks I want to hear, because I thought maybe he was going to go down and say, well, maybe, but he was dead set on no way. And it was interesting.
He know what he did.
But I guess the reason I'm mentioning is because I thought in asking that question that maybe, just maybe, he was going to give some kind of answer. But he gave the answer that I guess is the right answer. But because if he had said, well, perhaps, in what planet is that going to happen? But he said no. And so that's kind of what helped create this mythological character of Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, it's a very complex thing. So you can, like surf in every direction.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things happening. But yeah.
No, I have a question because this is sort of related to what you do. You've made movies in Colombia, TV shows. I don't know. There is an abundance right now of television coming out of Colombia. It's remarkable. I mean, it's like they're making a lot of shows. In particular, though, you see the big ones they're making are all about Narcos and, Pablo Escobar, Popeye. I guess my question is, does that bother you?
No, what bothers me is that we are not telling that stories by ourselves. What
do you mean?
That those movies, those big movies, Narcos is told. Well, the writers are are Americans. Even when Jose Padilla started the whole
Brazilian.
program, it's Brazil, but he didn't write the scripts. This Tom Cruise movie, is
there is not one
Colombian
telling these stories.
Well, Patrón del Mal, it was told by Colombians, but it was more like a soap opera. It was this long format thing. So to me, that's the problem, because in Colombia, Colombians they say every day that they are very tired of those stories. But I believe that they are tired of hearing those stories, the same story again and again and again. There are no different point of views.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's the big problem here. You can tell, it's like the Nazis, that why we don't get tired of movies about, the World War II or World War I. Because every time that one comes around is because it's just there is someone telling this story with their own point of view, and so you are watching something that you haven't watched before about that conflict. So that's for me the big problem. Because nowadays there is this Javier Bardem movie about Pablo Escobar. It's based
what's that movie?
It's called Escobar. You know about that movie?
No.
It's a movie about, it's based in a book written by one of Pablo Escobar's one of his lovers. It's called Virginia Vallejo.
Okay.
So it's a movie about I don't know if it's a romance or something like that, but it's Javier Bardem is Pablo Escobar and Virginia is going to be Penelope Cruz. So, and now you have the Tom Cruise movie,
Very sealed.
Yeah. So, yeah, but there is not for example, when you see City of God, I love that movie.
Amazing movie.
What was the good thing about that movie is, it's about the favelas, but it's favelas from people.
Yeah.
It's told by people from those places. But not those places, but, people from that country.
Yeah.
People that understand, how the people are.
Someone told me, though, that the guy was made up. Is that true?
Yeah. I think it's not a true story.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But there was a little Zay character.
Yeah. But there were a lot of.
And Knockout Ned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the good thing is that when people that are from there tell their stories, those stories are not like black and white.
Yeah.
When Hollywood people tell Colombian story, they are going to tell the American version of those guys.
Well, that was the problem I had with Narcos. I love Narcos, but one of the issues that I took up with it, I guess that one of the issues I felt was weird with Narcos was that I went back and I watched it again, and they in 2 minutes said, "Oh, and then Pablo went," that guy's narrating it. And he says, "Well, and then Pablo went on a tear. He blew up the DAS building. He did this. He did that. He killed the political candidate Luis Carlos Galan." It was like they mention these events in like one sentence,
one sentence
with a couple clips, and that's it. And I went, whoa. Those are, I mean, that's big stuff, really big stuff. And so when I, at least for example, when I watched El Patrón del Mal, they focused, because you have 60 or 75 episodes, they focused a lot of episodes on each of those particular incidents. And the impact was greater. I understood that these were massive. I mean, it's like, for example, when he blew up the DAS building, which is the Colombian FBI, imagine if that happened here. Just imagine. And in Narcos, it was mentioned for 1 minute. And so I understand that you also have to editorialize. They have to make things move for reasons. But it just was like, I don't know. It'd be like a movie that had, where, and September 11th happened. And then that,
Yeah. That's because you have to decide your point of view.
I also was surprised that they cast a Brazilian actor and not a Colombian. That was...
And the Colombian are very upset about that. Not because he wasn't a Brazilian.
He's a great actor.
Because of the accent. His Spanish is not...
Is Edgar Ramirez from Colombia?
He's from Venezuela.
Venezuela, that's right.
But actually he speaks Colombian too. In our movie, because when we did our movie with him, he used to fake this Colombian accent.
Like a Paisa accent?
No, more like not just Colombian, more like not just Paisa, more Colombian, like a mix of things.
Yeah.
So probably they consider him too. I don't know what happened, but the Warner is a very good actor, Warner Monga.
Warner Mura.
Mura.
Yeah, Warner. Yeah. It's very good. No, it just... It's funny though. There was a movie I was watching.
Malcriados.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm mentioning is because you and your brother were thanked in the credits. And but what I appreciated about that film though was that it had nothing to do with Narcos or anything. It literally was just a normal story that could take place anywhere. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and the weird thing about the movies there is that there are a lot of people, in Europe and United States that think that Colombia has to tell, just drug dealing stories and that kind of things. So it's very weird because they are asking for that.
Yeah. I mean, for you guys being in Hollywood, that's probably, as frustrating as that might be, that's probably not the worst thing for you, in that there is a demand for it.
Yeah. I think that the big problem, one of the big problems for me with Hollywood is that for some people it's so difficult to think that a person could be many things. A person from Colombia could be, who likes, metal or rock or African music or romantic comedies and that kind of thing. Latin things.
Oh yeah, right.
You have to be a Latin. You have to be a Latin. You have to be.
You don't have a poster of Sofia Vergara on your. No, wait. Is that who I'm thinking of? Not Sofia Vergara.
Yeah.
Sofia Vergara.
Yeah, and the same happened with those topics. Shakira. So, the same thing happens with me when I think about something from IT or Congo, that kind of thing, because it's ignorance. At the end, it's ignorance. I think that I don't know why Caracol did that. I know that. Well, I know why they did it. They did it for money.
Yeah.
But
they're making product that everybody wants.
Yeah, but that was a very, very, very sad.
There's a price to pay for that.
Yeah. And Colombia, there is they are doing a lot of things like that. They did this soap opera about the paramilitary leaders and everything. I think that they have to look at this decision with more responsibility. Yeah, I know they can earn money, but to me the responsibility is not in Netflix hands, because they are not going to see that in.
Of course not.
Yeah, they don't realize what are they doing. The problem was with Caracol. It's because they know what they are doing.
Yeah.
they were doing. You know, they in some meeting they green light, you know, a TV show about Popeye. That's so unresponsible.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like and the worst things. I think that is going to be the main idea of me sitting here is that they forgot everything.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? It's like, you know, it's like someone killing your relative, and, you know, 10 years later you are telling a story about the killer and making him, you know, the main character and everything. Why would you do that? And it's because we forget, and we forget. We don't forget the fact. We forget the emotion, the feeling of those events. So we forget that we were angry. We forget what we were. You know, we were upset about that. We were so it's the only for me, it's the only reason why someone like that could do something like that. I remember when someone was doing another TV show about this another narco, Mexicano, Gacha, Rodriguez Gacha. And the writer, I remember that I asked him, why are you doing that? Because the thing is that you cannot make the people empathize with him.
Yeah.
And if you tell the story as it is, he's going to be a villain. And the people are not going to want to see it. Because, you know, you can do that with Breaking Bad, but Breaking Bad is fiction. You can do whatever you want, but not with something that is real. It's very complex. The thing I once saw an interview with Mikhail Haneke. He was talking about that, telling the stories about someone that is from reality. He was telling that he doesn't think that that's a good thing to do, because at the end, if you are a storyteller, you have to change facts. You have to make someone likable. You have to create suspense. But if you are doing it with reality, it's very weird to change reality in order to create just entertainment.
You're also dealing with real events, and the events get warped, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you are going to tell a story, it's because you think that story is worth telling. And the thing is that's why I'm not against, you know, biopics and that kind of thing. It's because you find something that you want to tell. You know, there is this guy that struggles a lot in order to find, you know, be happy in his life, or you know, the falling of an artist or something like that. You want to tell something, but when you grab the Popeye's story to make a story, what the hell do you want to tell?
His story is so, it's not just, let's put the mass murderer on TV. let's give him his own channel, his Instagram, his followers, and he's this kind of almost messianic figure now. And it's crazy. America has never had anybody like Popeye that I'm aware of, that I can think of. That's one of the reasons why I want to interview him. America's never had anybody like this. We've had people who have done bad things, but not on this scale, and not where they come back and have this kind of social acceptance.
This twist. Yeah, because that's a very interesting point of view about this. I'm not saying that you cannot tell the Popeye story. You have to find what do you want to tell. And if you are going to tell his story from the point of view of the society around him, yeah, how this is reacting to this person, this particular person, well, you're going to have probably an interesting thing to tell. And they're going to have something meaningful.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Seriously, it helps. I hate bothering everybody for this, but I gotta do it. Please visit our website for a full list of credits and some cool bonus materials, like photos, videos, and declassified documents at thesicarioeffect.com. If you're not sure how to spell it, it's the name of the podcast. Or you can follow us on Instagram at The Sicario Effect, or on Twitter at Sicario Effect. There is no the in the handle. And on Facebook at Exclave Media. I'm Jonathan Branstein, your host and writer. The show is produced by me, Caitlin Tyrrell, Ernie Hurtado, and Matt Olson. Our editor is William Broughton. Our engineer, sound design, and mix, Ernie Hurtado. Co-producer, Esteban Orozco. Music composed by Preston Nowakowski. Artwork, Juan Felipe Orozco. Additional music is composed by William Broughton. Interview translator, Alejandro Caseño. Additional translation, Juliet Restrepo, Christina Madrid. Production support was provided by Daniel Uria. Special thanks to Laura Kate Jones, Mauricio Builes, Alejandro Burgess, Alejandro Doring, Alexandra Doring, Tim Fufus, Tom Freston, Ross Bernard, Kelvin Wells II, Saad Mohseni, Yoshi Obayashi, Jeff Frankel, Stephen Molina, and the fabulous Los Hermanos Orozco. Additional thanks to the Museo Casa de la Memoria in Medellin, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, the George Bush Presidential Library and Museum, Michael Pinckney, Mary Finch, Iafit Medellin, Luisa Garces. Also, please visit the Narco Tour project at narcotour.co. That's narcotour.co. This podcast is dedicated to the memory of Guillermo Cano, Anthony Bourdain, and Larry Bresner.